Now, as the American guns are fired, it looks as though the Aspen sharpshooters are about to be deployed. These are the riflemen. These were your marksmen, your, like in their names, the sharpshooters. And they're going to be sent out to try to pick off some of the British skirmishers. The question, why do they wear green? Only talking about coordinates. They're the same kind of robbers. Some movement in the American line with the 38th Regiment and the 51st having run away. Stricker realizes the British are closing in, so Stricker orders the 5th Maryland Regiment to withdraw. So getting their men together, you can see them marching on the road back to Baltimore. It's important to keep your forces together. You can see other elements withdrawing as well. Pennsylvanians under Captain Quantrell pulling this out. The American artillery kind of holding the rear guard there, giving the forces a chance to retreat. 27th Regiment Maryland Militia is withdrawn from the field. Montgomery's artillery is limbering up, getting ready to pull out.
He's wounded. He's wounded. He was get his arm up. Well, yes. I missed him going down though. Yeah.
The American musicians were rigged so they could easily spot it and communicate on the battlefield. Sharpshooters look to the right of the battlefield, the guys in the green and red hunting frocks, the green frock with the little red trim on it. We were talking about earlier, green being the color of the hunter. These guys were sent out to try to pick off enemy officers or musicians or any key people. Talk a little bit about the unit of Aspen sharpshooters, organized in Baltimore City around Fells Point. The working class guys of the city. For example, Daniel Wells and Henry McComas, some of the famous members of Aspen sharpshooters who did die in the Battle of North Point, were saddle makers. They made saddles for horses. The Royal Artillery seems to be in fine mode today, firing their piece very rapidly. Again, even a smaller gun like that will throw a 3-pound iron ball almost a mile, going very quickly. Could knock a tree down if it hit it in the right spot. the riflemen you see there firing by file, each man in his turn firing from the right to the left. Different ways an officer could regulate the firing of his troops to make sure that not everyone was unloaded at the same time. It looks like the artillery has driven the skirmishers off. In addition to firing a 3-pound ball, there may be small bags filled with gunpowder, canister rounds, spraying the field with musket balls, driving these skirmishers back as the British battle line comes on. Keep in mind, for the redcoats, for the British, this was really nothing new. They had been fighting all the way through Europe for many of them, and it's just another part of the duty, being sent away to a faraway land to engage whomever they chose to engage. You know, at this time, the British did have an empire that went around the world. American militia, and you see the aspects being redeployed. Many of them, for some, it was their first battle. In particular, you see out there, Asquith, Sharpshooter, and Green, they had fought at Ravensburg 2.5 weeks before. They put up some resistance before being driven from the field. They American defeat. And that was really the only combat experience these guys had before coming here. Some of the other regiments that fought at North Point didn't even have that. For many of the Americans, not only would they be outnumbered, but this would be their first fight. You hear the whistle calling the skirmishers in. It wouldn't surprise me if the American artillery is going to open up pretty soon. If you look to the right, you see the skirmishers filing off. In the center of the line is the 5th Maryland Regiment, nicknamed the Dandy 5th because one of the British eyewitnesses, the Lieutenant Bleed, said that the Battle of North Point really began with an artillery duel, with the cannons on both sides firing back and forth. About to open up. And here we see the smoke. Now look how dense that smoke is. That's just one cannon firing. Imagine, historically, the Americans had 6 guns like that in the center of their line. The American battle line numbered 2,600 men, so a mass volley would just shroud the area in smoke. As Lieutenant Bleed said, you could not even see the line until the wind blew the smoke away. The 5th Maryland just fired a volley. A steady advance by the British. As we were discussing earlier, really it's analogous to offense and defense. The British are on offense, the Americans are on defense. In the center there we see General Stricker directing his troops. You can see him in the blue coat with the tan things on it and the crest-shaped chapeau de bras being portrayed today by Priest. Stricker would go on to found the German Society of Baltimore, incidentally enough. Like I said, we were and are a nation of immigrants. The American Mexican holds the center of the line.
Right above stage.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess they're retreating. No, I mean,
A well-trained soldier should be able to load and shoot his musket at least 3 times in 1 minute. The American militia, as you see, they're getting ready to fire. With drilling and training on planes and weekends, very much like the National Guard itself. On the other side of the line, we have fish, they training every day of the week. British artillery is loading up. The fleet said that when they fired, they could see a crater in the ground on the American side, but the Americans avoided that crater as they were following. Another cannonball was going to land in the same spot.
Waiting on you, Brad.
Right above the face!
Offense to defense. Battles like these were very fluid affairs.
Never die. Bottom ain't gonna never die. Five companies. From the right. Ready? Present. Fire.
Big cannon.
Let's look at the 5th Maryland Regiment back then as they load their... Talk a little bit about the 5th Maryland.
Thank you.
Their unit, one of the companies was called the Mechanical Volunteers. And as you came in, you saw a fire department truck, a historic one by the Fire Museum of Maryland, which I encourage you to visit. You can talk to Steve Heaver over there. They have a historic bumper there. From the representative of that carried by the mechanical company. So what do they mean when they say mechanics?
Cannon.
Obviously, there were car mechanics at that time. A mechanic was a tradesperson, someone who had a skill, like a skilled labor. Someone, say, who made chairs, or someone who could make a saddle, or someone who
Little cannon down there had a misfire.
Ability. That's what they termed as a mechanic at that time. So in a sense, the American Army at North Point really, in a way, was a skilled labor, a working class army that came down here. It looks like the 5th Maryland's going to give the British enough.
Oh, he ain't never gonna stop talking like this.
And you can see that the firepower is rather hot on the American side.
Checking out his buds up there.
Firepower seems to be lacking, gradually dropping off onto the British side.
Loaded.
The Americans aren't good for it.
In battles of this era, sometimes this would happen, they call it a rolling reaction, where both sides would the commanders would then ascertain whether they may gain a tactical advantage, maybe redeploying troops, reconstituting their forces.
Failure! At the ordinary! March!
Pulling back forward, but now we switch from defense to offense. Again, kind of a football game. You can tone it down, make that touchdown, and then the past 30 battles, they have a a drive down, but certainly if one side gained the upper hand or a tactical, the other side would pull back. In the actual Battle of North Point, one of the turning points was when two American regiments ran from the field. The 51st Regiment and the 58th. They thought that the British got in behind them, and mistakenly, when the 51st Regiment bolted and ran, the men
Hope he doesn't have those retainers in.
And then they ran as well.
Fighting off and tearing those.
It
might be all right, but
the 5th Maryland Regiment and the 27th Regiment.
They're stuck to their speed.
27th
Probably
Regiment,
okay.
their name was the Jefferson Blues.
I hope there's not a problem next week.
Third president.
yeah.
American militia still holding the line. For those of you that are really into history, here's a little bit of North Point history trivia for you. In the center of the line, you see one of the militia units. You could say they'll represent Pennsylvania under a Captain Quantrill who came down. Captain Quantrill's command become the famous Confederate officer Quantrill Raiders. Here at the Battle of North Point. Another Pennsylvanian who was also part of the militia that came to the defenses of Baltimore was a very young man by the name of Buchanan, who would actually become the President of the United States. One of the other men who stood in the ranks of the militia was a young militiaman by the name of Poe, who would be the father of the poet Edgar Allan. We see the 5th Maryland being ordered to withdraw from the battlefield here, pulling back. The British steadily advancing.
Red got shot, dude.